Hi, welcome to the T-Shirt Teacher. Kristen Fruge here, published author, editor, and former high school English teacher. This is episode 10 of Pick Your Poison. And yes, I'm wearing bright red lipstick today. Today's theme is rebellion. In my world, I am cooking lima beans because Coriolanus Snow hated lima beans. I'm wearing a Mockingjay pen. I'm wearing a banned book shirt. I'm wearing bright red lipstick because a certain dictator in World War II Germany hated it when women wore red lipstick. Episode 10 is called Making Problems Disappear. And today's episode is going to pick right back up where we left off with Coriolanus. And Coriolanus, we have found he has been caught cheating in the Hunger Games. Although he technically won because his victor won, his cheating has cost him his life in the Capitol. And he is being punished by being sent quietly away to be a peacekeeper in the districts. Peacekeepers are officers that work for the Capitol to keep order in the districts. The name is, I would say, a very deliberate choice by Suzanne Collins, but everything she does is very deliberate because they're far from peaceful. They force peace through violence and oppression, and they have the full support of the Capitol behind them. They're hated by the districts, and they're often unfair and cruel. They do the bidding of the Capitol, or the dirty work, so to speak. And it's all in order to keep the peace and to keep the districts from rebelling against the Capitol. Their job is to squash any potential rebellion that would arise. Coriolanus was given the option that wasn't actually an option to join the peacekeepers and leave the Capitol. Because they found the items that he had used to cheat in the Hunger Games, and they were presented. And there's a confrontation between he and Dean Higginbottom on page 325. And briefly, Coriolanus believes that Lucy has betrayed him. And he says, "She gave you the compact?" Coriolanus' heart dropped at the thought. "Oh, don't blame her. The peacekeepers had to wrestle her to the ground to get the thing. Naturally, we do a search of the victors when they leave the arena." The dean cocked his head and smiled. "So smart about how she poisoned Wovey and the Reaper? Not really fair play, but what's to be done? Sending her back to District 12 is punishment enough. She said the rat poison was all her idea and the compact had been a token." Coriolanus apparently, is immediately thinking that Lucy has betrayed him. Which the dean is like, "No, she tried to get away. She insisted it was all her idea." But he's like, "But I know." Lucy, though, did not want to give it up. In fact, she is trying to protect Coriolanus Snow at this point. I would say she's running away. She, had to be wrestled for the compact that he gave her. Coriolanus obviously responds with a lie, and he says, "It's true," said Coriolanus. It was a token of my affection. I don't know anything about the rat poison." So he's lying, obviously. And the dean is like, "Yeah, I don't believe you. But even if I did, guess what I found?" And he presents the evidence of the handkerchief that he had dropped in the snake tank. And it has an unmistakable initial that is his father's initial, because not many people have an X for their initial. CXS, stitched in the same white thread as the border. Part of the border pattern, really so unassuming you'd have to look carefully for it, but irrefutably there. Coriolanus never bothered to examine his daily handkerchief. He just stuffed it in one of his pockets as he headed out. There would have been a slim chance of denying the charge if the middle name hadn't been so distinctive. Xanthos, the only name Coriolanus even knew that began with an X. And the only person who carried it was his father, Crassus Xanthos Snow. And he and Dean Higginbottom go back and forth, and the dean tells him that they've had a tradition at the academy to offering an alternative to students who were expelled, and he can go be a peacekeeper, basically. Coriolanus then questions Higginbottom about why he hates him so much. He's like, "I thought you and my dad were friends." Higginbottom responds on the bottom of page 326. So Coriolanus says, "Why? Why do you hate me so much?" He blurted out. "I thought you were my father's friend." That sobered the dean. "I thought I was too once, but it turned out I was only someone he liked because he could use them, even now." "But he's dead. He's been dead for years," cried Coriolanus. "He deserves to be, but he seems very much alive in you." The dean made a shooing motion. "Better hurry. The office closes in 20 minutes. If you run, you can just make it." And that ends the interaction between Coriolanus Snow and Dr. Higginbottom. And we just don't quite understand what is going on that is making Higginbottom so out to get Snow, which later we find out there's very good reason. We still see that theme of revenge interwoven in the story, but this time it's coming from Higginbottom, not Coriolanus. And it's interesting because revenge and the betrayal are only the beginning of the things we'll see later in the book. And we've seen the seeds and now the sprouts of animosity growing deeper in Coriolanus. Once we later find out Higginbottom's quarrel with Coriolanus' father, you'll understand better. In his mind, he is still fighting with the person of Crassus Snow, Coriolanus' deceased father. Jumping back to Hamlet, who is still trying to avenge his deceased father, in a way, King Claudius is still fighting the deceased elder Hamlet as Hamlet is acting on behalf of him throughout the entire play. In both stories, it's a case of a father influencing a son, although in Hamlet's, it's more direct through a ghost and a spirit of a deceased father. And had the guards and Horatio not seen the ghost as well, I'd discount the whole thing as Hamlet being like really a little mad. You know, madness, the theme that goes throughout the play, which a theme that permeates a novel or a play is called a motif, by the way. Madness is definitely a motif in Hamlet. So we see those themes going on. But both Hamlet and Coriolanus are heavily influenced by their fathers. In a way, you know, Coriolanus is trying to avenge his family name. And he just has a much broader focus than Hamlet. Coriolanus needs to be in control of everything and will stop at nothing to do so. And Hamlet, on the other hand, he's just trying to avenge his father's death. He does try to manipulate things, but it's all for like the singular purpose of making things right in his eyes. And once we get to the end of both stories, we can talk more about the similarities and differences of the overall characters. Themes of revenge flow heavily through both texts. That would be probably another motif that you could say that flows through the novels and the play. We see the repercussions of their actions as we progress through each story. We find Hamlet has accidentally killed Polonius and now is dragging the body out of the room and telling his mother goodnight as he does. And the king finds Hamlet's mother, Queen Gertrude, quite upset and asks her what has happened. In Act 4, Scene 1, the king says, "What, Gertrude? How does Hamlet?" And she responds, "Mad as the sea and wind when both contend, which is mightier." In his lawless fit, behind the arras hearing something stir, whips out his rapier, cries, "A rat! A rat!" And in this brainish apprehension kills the unseen good old man. So Gertrude the queen is saying, yeah, Hamlet, in a fit of madness, has accidentally killed Polonius. And the king, of course, responds that, you know, they're going to have to do something about this. They then ask Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to go find Hamlet. This is before they've been sent to their death. And I just pulled some lines for the other episode because it fit with the Friends theme. Anyway, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern agree to go find him and see where he's taken the body of Polonius. The king and queen agree it's dangerous that Hamlet is loose being so mad. Hamlet is far from helpful when they find him and is still acting pretty wild and playing pretty well that mad and craft card, but we can see like little hints of sense in the midst of his nonsense. So like, is he really mad? In Act 4, Scene 2, Hamlet says, "The body is with the king, but the king is not with the body. The king is a thing." Guildenstern, "A thing, my lord." Hamlet, "Of nothing. Bring me to him. Hide, fox, and all after." What is Hamlet talking about? No one knows. In the next scene, the king worries Hamlet is loose and says they must ship him off because he can't be heavy with the punishment because Hamlet's very popular with the people, apparently. And if they punish him, he's going to somehow become a martyr and they're going to have a bigger problem. And they have to quietly send him away. But he has to die, according to Claudius, talking to himself. Upon Hamlet entering the scene with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, they press him again and ask him where he's put Polonius. Like, "Where have you put his body?" He won't tell them, but he says, "Yeah, I'll go off to England. I agree it's for the best." He does not let them know that he knows that he's being sent to his death. We definitely see both of the higher powers in the book are trying to make their problems go away. But Higginbottom and King Claudius both underestimate their opponents. And we're getting so much closer to finishing up Hamlet. I think we'll finish that one before Ballad, but we'll see. And there's so much, though, we haven't discussed in both books, especially in Ballad. And today's t-shirt is I'm with the band. It's banned books. I just finished To Kill a Mockingbird, and I do think I'll eventually do a little mini-series on banned books. To Kill a Mockingbird was incredible. It still has lessons that are applicable today. It's very relevant, even though it's an old book. And there are many other, quote, banned books that I'd love to explore. So keep watching the T-Shirt Teacher. Don't forget to like and subscribe.